We're gonna go ahead and get started. This is lesson number 7. Facebook keeps taking down my videos for some reason, but I'm recording the streams and they're going on to my YouTube. So that's how we're making sure that they stay up. So you should be able to find them on my page. If not, you can go over to YouTube. We did a Spotify podcast, but I didn't realize you couldn't do video on there, so that one's just audio. Try to keep that in mind during the class for those of you who are wanting to do that. I don't know how well it's going to work without being able to follow along with the documents while we're talking. So anyway, just something to keep in mind. The Dropbox is pinned in the comments. Somebody mentioned they didn't understand what that meant, so I'll just go over that real quick. If you click on that link in the comments where it says Just Nowlin, Dropbox, Nez Perce, it'll take you to a file sharing program that I set up for us where all the documents are kept out in there. So you follow that link, it'll take you right there, and you can download the documents. Probably the only one you really need is the dictionary. You should definitely have the dictionary. It's kind of a big file. If you're using an iPhone, I recommend you open it in Books. Books is an Apple provided software that's for reading, so it's perfect for the dictionary. So for sure download that one. If you're still working on the alphabet, I recommend downloading that one too. We'll go over it here quickly. We had a couple of new students last week that were a little bit behind, so we'll just touch on that really quick, and then touch on the dictionary really quick, and then we'll kind of touch a little bit on everything. But then we're going to get back to verb conjugation. We're going to go over that a little bit more, and then I want to dive into how we're going to use the group chat. I think I have everybody set up in the group chat. If you didn't get a notification today that you're in the group chat, then you're not in the group chat. And if you want to be, you can shoot me a message or comment on the live. I'll get you added in there. So just something to think about here as we're getting started. Okay, so I have the alphabet up here. Again, glottal stops. It's kind of a complicated concept for people who speak English, but it's pretty common in other languages, kind of like the first half of a uh-oh, but it's going to sort of mimic the vowel that it follows. So in this case, we pronounce crow ah-ah, so it's kind of like half of a ah sound. Okay, this next little mark here indicates the stress of the word. So we made this alphabet so that you wouldn't have to guess where the stress of the word is. So like in English, it doesn't give you that, and vowels can be pronounced a bunch of different ways, and it gets super complicated. But the way this alphabet was built is perfect for sounding things out. So all of the letters of the alphabet are always going to make the same sound. They're never going to change. That makes it nice, and then also knowing where the emphasis of the word is. So you can see that on this red A here, we have emphasis over the top of the A. That means that the emphasis is going to be on that vowel. So it's pronounced kahas, not kahas, right? If it was on the second A, we would pronounce it kahas. So it tells you everything that you need to know about how to pronounce the word. All the letters are going to be pronounced exactly the same, and there should be a stress indicator on every single one, and that's important. Putting the little glottals and stuff on all these letters is really important too. It can change the meaning of the word almost embarrassingly. We'll talk about that in a second. Again, you guys should be working on the differences between the sounds of your vowels. So the A is going to sound like the A in father, so it's always going to be ah. And then it can get longer, ah, so the difference between pa and ham, you're holding on to that A sound just a little bit longer. Here we have the diphthongs. Again, that's just a fancy word for rolling into a vowel to consonant sound. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. If you want me to explain it to you a little more, I can, but it seems pretty straightforward that the AW here makes the ow sound, so like as in loud tiwa. Okay. Then we have the letter C. This makes the TS sound, like the end of hats. I feel like we're mentioning this every time, but it's worth bringing up. It's not a ch sound, so we don't have a ch sound in the Nez Perce language. So there's no wachamios or chawikta. It's a t sound. So tzitkan. And then we get into our first adjective here. So you have a t, and then you have this little mark over the top, means that we're putting extra emphasis on that. So it goes from t to t. And you can write it either way. You can write it this way if you like, with the glottal to the side, depending on what kind of keyboard you're using. Sometimes putting it over the top isn't always an option. On the computers, I'm using this one, courtesy of Kristen Parr. You go to interiorSalish.com, scroll down and install the Sahaptin font and keyboard there on the left. I didn't find the keyboard in there, so I installed the Sahaptin one and the Salish one, and I've gotten everything that I need. On your phones, you can download an app. I used the app called IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet Keyboard. Lewis Half Moon offered a couple other apps that he's been using, and I'll post the screenshots of those in the group chat. But there's apps that can give you these marks that we need. Okay. The letter E is always going to sound like ah, as in cat. It's never going to change, or we won't. It's not like English where the A and the E sometimes sound the same. It's always going to be the same. Again, it can be lengthened, and it has diphthongs too, but I feel like those are pretty self-explanatory. The H is just like English. The I is just like English. It makes the E sound. I guess I can make a couple different sounds, but here it makes the E sound. So when we're asking for somebody to pass something to us, we say inim, E, and it can be lengthened too. You can make it long, and it has a diphthong with the W as well. K is just like English. It has an adjective, so there's k and k. L is just like English. This one here is the L is our first glottalized vowel. That's it's a little bit, the way it pronounces a little bit different, so it's hard to make an adjective L sound. So it makes more like a creaking sound. So where we have latus is the word for flower, and when we're talking about the morel mushroom, we say pa la. So it's like a creak. It turns into more like a creaking sound. This barred L makes the THL sound. So you put your tongue on the back of your teeth, blow air out the sides. Chitan is how we pronounce that. Talkmash, tsuthlim. It's a kind of a juicy sound. M is just like English. When it becomes a resonant, it's pronounced tmas, tmina. Just it gets kind of if you practice it, you'll see what I mean. You can't really make it's not like a ma, it's like a sort of sound. Okay, same with the N. The O is always going to make the O sound. You shape your lips just like the letter O. Tohon, it can get elongated too. Yos. It has a diphthong with the Y. Oikala, liloitza. P is just like English. It gets an adjective. You have a p and a p. Q is a sound that we don't have in English, so we're kind of putting our lips in the shape of an O2, and the sound comes from farther back in your throat, so it's pronounced ka, ka, mimkos, pisakis. So you move your tongue back just a little bit farther, put some more emphasis on it when it's glottalized. ST, U makes the oo sound, so it becomes kuts kuts. The rest of these are just like English, except for the X is different than the H. So you have a H, so like hot swal, and then you have we see is the regular X, and then you have yo, which is the glottalized X. And that's the only one I think that has a dot beneath it. Okay, that's the alphabet. It's not super complicated, but you do have to learn it. You guys need to learn what these letters mean, because we're going to start giving out more materials, and looking stuff up in the dictionary are all things that you need to understand what these sounds are making. Okay, so when we start handing out more information, when you're looking stuff up in the dictionary, we want you to be able to pronounce these words back correctly and consistently. So that's why the alphabet is super important. So some of the videos that didn't get posted, I'll go back and re-record at some point, and we go into this quite a bit, dive into this. But I mean, I feel like if you've heard it a couple times, it's not that complicated. If you're still having trouble with it, you don't have to post it in the comments. Just message me, and we can work on it separately from everything else. But it's really important to learn. Okay, next let's talk about the dictionary. Inside that Dropbox is a link to download a free copy of the dictionary. You don't have to pay for it. But I do want you to download it. You need it. It's a valuable resource. Download it. Put it on your phone. And every time you're like, you should be asking yourself this multiple times a day. I wonder how we say that in Indian, and then you would open it in the Nez Perce dictionary and look it up, and because you know how to use the alphabet, it'll make sense to you, and you'll be able to pronounce the words and sort of do like a self-study. It'll be like a self-study. You can look up these words and have them at your disposal anytime. And I feel like that's going to be really, really important. One second, I'm messing myself up here. There we go. Dictionary's pretty easy to use. It works, all our alphabet kind of goes in the same order as the English alphabet. But in the back of the dictionary is an English to Indian translation. So you're going to start there most of the time. You're trying to think of how a word would be in, how we're gonna say that in Indian. So you're gonna go to the back of the dictionary. It starts on page 1126, I think. I've gotten this right like twice. The first 25 pages of the dictionary are the introduction, so it tells you about the Nez Perce language just in general, talks about who the informants are, the people who helped provide the content, master speakers. It tells you about the pronunciation system, everything that you want to know in the front. So that's the first 25 pages. So when we look at this, it's page 1109, but it's 1126 over here. That's the first 25 pages of the dictionary. So you're going to look it up in English. It's going to offer you a translation in Indian, and then you would go and look up you would go into the W section of the front part of the dictionary where it's Indian to English, and you would look up this word here. This is the root word. When you do that, it's going to give you a ton of different options, and that's that's kind of what we're focusing on now, is that you need to understand how the root word works, how we talk about aspect, and how we talk about tense. So aspect is like who's. So in this case, we've been using the verb accident. We'll just keep using it, I guess. A verb is to do something. So in this case, there's an accident happening, but we want to know who caused the accident, and when they caused it, right? Tense and aspect. So we're gonna. So it can be a little bit different. It can be a little bit complicated if you don't understand how that works. And so that's part of the reason why we're doing this part of the teaching rather than just going over words or whatever. Is I'm trying to give you the tools to look these things up and understand what's happening in the dictionary, so that you can work on your own translations. And that's going to be a big part of what happens in the group chat. Is you're going to be practicing your translations with all of us. So and you can look it right up in the book. I don't care if you copy and paste it right from the book. That's language exposure. Okay, and that's what we want. Is the idea that you have your nose stuck in this book and you're trying to figure out how to say the word accident. Is language exposure, and every time that you do that, you get a little bit better with the language. Now, if we just sat here for an hour every week and I read words to you, it would take you forever to learn the language that way. This way, whenever you're thinking about it or wondering about it, you have these tools at your disposal, and you can just constantly be building on your ability to use the language. I'm so lost. I have no idea where. Why am I not even finding this pages? Do this every week, Jess. Come on, man. I got a little bit lost this week getting things ready because I was trying to add some different stuff in. Right. Plus 25. There. So here it gives us the translation for the word accident, and then it gives us all these other examples. So this is why understanding how the system works helps you unpack what's happening in the dictionary. So we'll give you this root word here, which is what we looked up when we looked up accident. We got this root word here, but this root word doesn't just happen by itself most of the time. So you can see we've right below it gives us the example "wiauka." So we're adding this a on the end, which is giving us tense. That's telling us it happened in the past tense. So it changes the word, and then we have "wiauhna." This is the word for automobile. It's actually started out as a word for wagon, but now it's used as a word for automobile. So it says "ipnaulakaiki," and then it gives us this W with a dot. It's referencing this example right above. So if you said "ipnaulakaiki wiauhna," I was in an automobile accident. That my car was wrecked. That's the translation that it's given you. And it gives you another example here. Now here we're adding something onto the front. He was hurt. Now we've changed the aspect. I'm not just talking about myself now. I'm talking about someone else. But I still have my tense on the end there. And we're going to go over all of that in a minute. But being able to understand that, being able to understand what's happening in the dictionary is really important to being able to use it correctly. Because look, you can add all this other stuff on here that changes the meaning. You can add this prefix on there. You can add this prefix on there. You can add this one on there. And then change it to "it caused his accident." Okay? So it's important to understand the system, and that's what we're trying to teach here. This is more of a linguistics class than it is a Nez Perce class, but I want to do both. I want to make the whole idea is so that the language becomes part of our everyday lives, and that's a big part about what the group chat does. So that's how you would use the language, or use the dictionary rather. This document here, which is in the Dropbox, helps us understand a little bit more about the examples that I just gave. So it breaks the words down into 3 primary chunks. We have the root word, which is the wiauk that we looked up. Then you have the prefixes. The pre means it's happening before the root. And then you have the suffixes, which means those come on the end. So this is how we sort out aspect, is by these prefixes that we put on the front. So if we don't use anything, the root word for go in is oughts. So if we don't put anything on the front and we just say oughtsa, we give it a simple past tense, it means I went in. It could also mean you went in. It doesn't matter whether it can mean either way. But if we want to talk about somebody else, a third person, then we put this he on the front right here. So now to go in, you'd say you add that you add that he on the front to the oughts. That's the root word. I think it becomes oughtsa. You can. This is a good example. Oh, or no, it's not. We're putting the hi right here on front of the vowel of the verb to go, which is wihne, W-I-H-N-E. He wihna. So we're just adding it right onto the front, and then we're adding the simple past tense on the end, and then we're calling out the noun. The tsikamkol is the dog, so it means the dog went. But if you didn't put the tsikamkol on there, it could just mean he, she, it, anybody went. Anything in the third person. So first person is when I'm talking about myself. Second person is when I'm talking about you. And then third person is where I'm talking about somebody else, somebody over there. So it's important to understand the difference between those. And then on the tense, we're putting those things on the end. The suffix goes on the end. So it's going to, I have a couple examples here who we worked on last time, I feel like. Simple tenses. Okay, we have this dash e, which all the dash means is that it goes on the end of the root. Present perfect, which is the s, and the future, which is the u. Okay, so when we put the e on the end of pinmeek, which is to sleep, it becomes I just got done doing it. I just did it. Pinmeeks is that present perfect sort of what's a good way to explain that? It's just sort of like the concept of sleeping. Yeah, I've gone to sleep. I've done that before. And then when you put this u on the end, it changes it to future tense. So we have nothing in front of pinmeek, which means it's either first or second person. And then we have this u on the end, which means it's the future tense. So then it becomes I will go to sleep. And that's what so much of what's happening in the dictionary is doing, is we're putting this stuff on the front here of the root word that we're talking about, and then we're putting stuff on the end, and that's how we're understanding who did what to who and when they did it. And that's it. I mean, if you can really just grasp that concept, that's how we conjugate verbs, Then all you have to do after that is work on your vocabulary. You pick out verbs that are important to you that you want to use in your everyday life, and you start practicing conjugating them. And there's a lot more rules. I mean, if we just roll through this document, you can see that there's a lot more rules. But what I want you guys to do is just understand the concept of this is how we sort everything out in Indian. And I think you'll find that it's easier than it is in English. It's the system is very predictable and it's very understandable. So when we break it into its forms, we put these brackets in here. We add, so we're going to say pa, which is the plural of first and second person, waka ike, and a. So we put all these things together, and what starts to happen is the word will change a little bit. So one of the rules is everywhere that you see EWE, it changes to double the elongated U sound. So there's plenty of that stuff to memorize, but I don't want you guys to really focus on that for right now. I just really want you to understand the concept of how we, just the very simple ones. I don't want you guys to do any plurals. Just very simple first person, second person, and third person aspect, and a simple tense. And that's all I really want you to work on right now. Use the a and the u. Okay, forget about the s for right now. I did it, I'm going to do it. He did it, she's going to do it. We're all getting our feet wet here, learning how to use the language, and so I want to just keep it as simple as possible so that we're all at like C-spot run, right? C-spot run, the dog went out, very, very simple things. And then we're going to build on that. And you can build on that forever. And Nez Perce is an incredibly rich language with all this phonology and all these rules and wonderfully creative ways. And that's one of the ways that our people became such good orators, is because there's so many different ways that you can say different things and talk about different meanings. And we can get into all that. There's a ton of it. It's fun. It's interesting. It'll help you feel more. If you're a food gatherer, a hunter, it'll help you feel more connected to the land. It'll help you feel more connected to the resources. It's wonderfully beautiful that way, and all of its interpretations are it's fascinating. So there's plenty to do. So I don't want you to feel disappointed or feel like stuck in the mud because we keep going over the same thing. But you really have to understand these concepts so that we can move on to the next part of it, where we can add in, so we can really start diving into all these different rules. Okay. And that's what the group chat's going to do. So the group chat is up. It went live earlier today. I think everybody who asked to be in it got put in it. If you didn't get a notification today that you got added, then you're not in it. You should have gotten something. If you want to be in it, just let me know. Shoot me a message. You can put it in the comments of the live stream. I'll get you added in. But all we're really doing is practicing the very basic of these verb conjugations. So what I want you guys to be doing is, while you're cooking dinner, or getting the kids ready for school or ready for bed, or maybe you're in the middle of your workflow and you think to yourself, I wonder how we say that in Indian. I want you to go to the dictionary, find the root, and just try to do a simple verb conjugation and put it in the group chat, and let us try to figure out what's happening there, because we have to practice on that too. So when it pops up, and a lot of times when you look it up in the dictionary, it's going to give you a word-for-word translation in a very simple term, in a way that you can just copy, and that's fine. I want you to copy it exactly the way that it is in the dictionary. But then that gives us an opportunity. We see that pop up on our screen and we think, okay, let me try to unpack this. I'm going to look for where the root word is. So it has a he on the front, and an E on the end. I know that's the tense, so this root, I don't recognize this root word, but it starts with a P, pin, me, yeah. So I'm gonna look that up in the dictionary. Oh, they're talking about, getting the kids ready for bed. Like, oh, okay. And you don't even have to answer anything back. It doesn't matter. We have a couple of teachers who are in there. Kristen's in there. I'm in there. We'll help keep the conversation going. But all we want you to do is go through that exercise of I'm trying to figure out what this says. And if you're struggling with your translations, we can help you a little bit. It's like, a better way to say it might be like this, or I see what you were trying to do there, but we haven't got to this part yet. But there's a rule about how you see what I mean, and that's the exercise that I want you guys to go through in the group chat. Start with stuff that's really, really simple. And then we can build on it forever. There's enough to build on it for absolutely ever. So I'll commit to making sure that there's always a little bit of something happening in the group chat. But I really want you guys to try it, and this is a great way to build your confidence, right? Because and I find this with a lot of people who have good experience with the language, is that when you get face to face with them and you start trying to communicate back and forth in the language, you can only go so far, right? Like everybody just wants to say Tatsmewi, Manaawas, Inwenakisa, and then what happens after that? It's not really a part of our life, like we're not really communicating to each other by just doing that. So I want you guys to build up your confidence by experimenting with these translations, so that so that you can continue to build on them and get to a place where you can communicate your feelings and you can communicate topics and we can talk. Otherwise the language is just going to be like this. We're going to be looking at these papers and we're going to be talking about different things or whatever, and that's great for some people who are very academic minded. Just sitting here going over the simple tenses or whatever might be great for them, and they can pick it up and learn it quickly. It's not for me. I was not good at school. I worked good with my hands. I went into the trades, and it took me a while to figure that out. So I have to mess with things in order to get them to really stick in my brain. And so this gives you the opportunity to do both. So you can, there's 1,500 pages in this dictionary. There's more words than you ever know what to do with, and you can just sit there and go through them. And if that's the best way that you learn, then that's awesome. But I want you guys to also take a stab at trying to use them. I want you to put it out there in the language, in the group chat. I would prefer everything that happens in the group chat be in the language. If you guys want to make memes and all that kind of stuff, I think that's great. I think it's I think that's what we should be doing, is connecting on social media platforms like Facebook, where we're talking with each other in a recreational, socially connecting way. So I want you to do it that. You can talk about whatever you want as long as it's in Indian, and our job, once it ends up in the group chat, is to try to unpack what it is you're saying. So that should really be the only time that you're using English. Are you trying to say that he was hurt? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Boom. Then we have a moment there. All right, cool. I figured that out. It's not quite as hard as I thought it was going to be. And then we build on that and build on that and build on that. Okay? So that's the idea about the group chat. Let's go into a little bit more verb conjugation. There are a couple of pretty big rules that I want you guys to understand. I think they're in this document. One of them is called verb classes, and it's probably the biggest one. I might just be able to explain it right from the front here. So you might have noticed that when we put tense on the end, sometimes it sounds like sa, and sometimes it sounds like sa. And the reason that is because we have two major verb classifications in our language. They're for the most part, they're going to fall into one of those two classes. And so the general rule is that if the root word ends with an N, then when you put the present progressive on there, it's going to change to the ts sound. And if it doesn't, then it just then it stays a s. That's really the it's really the basics of it. I swear it was in this document. I know it has a lot of weird little characters in there. I'm going to try to get those fixed up. I did that because I saved it onto my computer, which didn't have this font on there. But you'll notice it when we add, maybe it's in the simple tense. Dang it, Jess. Yeah, these are all words that are rules that go with conjugating these vowels, and it can be a little bit intense, but I don't want you guys to get defeated by that. The other big rule that I wanted to go over is this idea right here of strong vowel forms. So you'll notice how when we put the E on the end of some words, it comes out as a, like this one changes to ata, and this one is pin mika. It's because some verbs have strong vowels and some verbs have weaker vowels, but we want them to all be the same, so we call it vowel harmony. So whenever a verb has strong vowels, we're going to stay with the A's and the O's when we conjugate, and when they have softer vowels, then we go with the E and the U. So the root word for going out is ought. That's where that word for bathroom comes from. Oh, I go to the ought. They're talking about going outside to the outhouse. Ought is to go out, and it's just the long A and the T, and that's it. So when we add the E on there, we want those to match. So we wouldn't want to say ata. It's ata. So we want them to all be consistent. So the tense will change, the letter will change based on the strength of the vowel. So the verb. So the verb for to go to sleep is pin meek, and the eyes can be considered both, but they're generally considered weak. So we're adding the E on the end rather than the A, but it means the same thing. So that's why it's in these brackets with the bar on the end, because it still means just the simple past tense, but it's pronounced differently in words that have weak vowels. It's pronounced a, pinmike, than it is on verbs that have the strong vowel sound. So ata. So we have the V class and the S class, and actually it covers it in the front of the dictionary on page Perfect. Starting to feel a little embarrassed, but I think we're going to make it. So if you download the dictionary in the front, it goes over all of this stuff. Words and vowel harmony. So it talks about how we categorize vowels in Nez Perce into two groups. I, A, and O is the strong ones, and I, E, and U are the weaker ones. So we always want those to match. And so when we're memorizing our verbs, we also have to memorize whether or not they have inherently are strong or inherently are weak. Because how they interact with the prefixes and suffixes will change the way that they're pronounced. And it'll explain it all to you right here. And that's what I was just saying. When you join these groups together in a single word, they'll change. Here Aoki calls it dominant or strong, either way. But he marks them as dom in the dictionary. So when you're looking them up in the dictionary and you see the indication DOM, that means that these have dominant vowel sounds, and when you're conjugating, you need to keep that in mind. And then he goes on to discuss the C-class verb stem, and then he calls the other ones just regular. So you can see the difference between hipisa and hakita. It's the same tense, only because the root for the verb to see, hacken, ends in an N. When we add the SE on the end, it changes to C. So N and S together change to C. It's complicated. It's a complicated concept. Not as complicated as you might think, because it's predictable, right? It's going to happen the same every single time. So in English, we have stuff that happens all over the place, and we have to memorize all that stuff. That's true, and we're still memorizing stuff here. We have to memorize these rules, but they're predictable, so it's always going to happen the same way. I know that's tough. If you guys have questions, you can shoot them in the comments. But beyond just simple verb conjugation, those are the two biggest rules that you're going to need to understand. Which ones, how the vowel harmony changes, and which ones are C-class verbs, and which ones are S-class verbs. If you're not sure, you can come back and watch the video again. If you haven't already, you should read through the front part of the dictionary. It explains all of this stuff. I mean, you don't need me to read it to you, but it talks about how Nez Perce verb stems fall into two classes, the S class and the C class. It talks about how that's how it's indicated by the letter N. So where that root word ends with the letter N, that's what's going to determine whether or not it's an S class or a C class. All right. Nobody's asking questions, so I'm guessing you're getting it, or at least you're processing it. I know it feels a little weird, but you just kind of have to accept it. That's just how we do it. And the more you practice with it, the better you'll be. So I really want you to use the group chat. Practice running through the four main things that we've covered. So you need to practice giving it aspect. So it needs to either be first person, second person, or third person. Got to have your root in there, whatever it is you're talking about, and then you have your tense, and then I don't know that you necessarily need to be so worried about vowel harmony in C class and S class, but it's going to become important at some point. But if you can at least try a few uh, translations just using simple aspect and simple tense. You can get bonus points for using vowel harmony and having the right class verb. Um, then that's great. If you can accomplish those four things, you're going to be just fine. After that, all we're doing is just coming up with more creative ways to say similar things. Okay, so when you look through the dictionary, that first one that we looked up for Wealk gave us a whole bunch of prefixes, different ways that we can explain about accidents. And so then we can just be creative after that. But those are the four main concepts I need you to understand: aspect, tense, vowel harmony, and verb class. So I'll like I said, I'll try to keep things moving in the group chat. I'll put in some basic verb conjugation stuff in there, and I just want you guys. You don't have to respond or anything, but I just want you to try to unpack that in your mind. Look up the root in the dictionary. Try to recognize the tense and the aspect. Okay. So this is what we're going to be working on. We're going to go over it again next week. The alphabet stuff probably going to start falling off. If you need extra help with that, let us know. Otherwise, it's just the most important thing is staying connected to it. So every day we should be trying a little bit to use the language. And last week we talked a little bit about what your motivation is for learning the language. So you should be thinking about that stuff. Try to stay as motivated as you can, and we're just going to connect to it just a little bit every day, and give ourselves something to build on there. I also, in the comments, just below the link for the Dropbox, I put in some social media accounts that deal with Nez Perce language. So the first one, if you go to TikTok and you go to @Tiska that's Judge Slickpoo. He does a Nez Perce word of the day just about every day in Nez Perce. So you should go and follow him. I don't know that you necessarily need to feel obligated to interact with his account much more than just hearing the language being spoken. He speaks a little bit of it every day. He does a good job of getting the correct pronunciations in there. So if you're on TikTok, you should go check him out. Also, I put in Leslie Moses's TikTok account. That's the second one here. So if you go to TikTok and you put the @ symbol in there, and then you just type in these names, you'll be able to find their account. Hers, I feel like Judges is mostly just the language. Hers is a little bit different. She has some other stuff in there, but a lot of the stuff that she has on there is connected to the language, so that's important too. The next two are for YouTube. So if you go to Colville Tribes Language and Wolitz, they both have YouTube accounts that deal with Nez Perce pronunciation, and they show other things on there. And again, it's just about being connected to the language. So if you're on YouTube already, or you're on TikTok already, it's not that big of a deal to follow them. And then it just pops up in your feed, and then you get exposure to the language that way. So those accounts can be fun to just. Yep, now you're on the hook, Leslie. You're gonna have to add some more stuff. It's just a way to stay connected. So if we're just going by without using the language every day, then it's gonna take us longer to learn, and that's fine. You're welcome to learn at your own pace. That's what this course was designed to do, is to allow you to learn at your own pace. I'm just here to try to provide the tools for that, so that you can have a way to do things on your own time when it's good for you. just like these videos, they'll be posted at the when we're done with the live. We'll post the videos, and then you can come back and watch them. You don't have to be my friend on Facebook. It's all set to public, so you can come back and watch them whenever, and then can go to YouTube whenever you want and do and look at stuff that way. So let's just try it really quick. We're gonna go into the Nez Perce language group, and we'll just pick something simple out of the dictionary and we'll put it in there. See if you guys can figure it out. Something we haven't already talked about. Maybe it's something we talked about. There we go. So use the X. Oops. Oh. Turn my keyboard on. There we go. So just like that, if you're in the group chat, you should have something for me that's in the language. Should be a pretty basic thing to figure out. So you're just going to try to identify the root and identify the tense, and then if there's any aspect on there, identify that, and then you should come up with a simple translation. It's just that easy. And I normally don't use the word that way, so that's just by going through that simple exercise, I'm connecting myself to the language in a way that I'm learning something too, and that's sort of the whole point. You missed it all, Amelia. We're almost done, Foo. But the video will be posted, so you can go back and watch it. We reviewed everything that we've done up until now. We spent a little more time on verb conjugation. We introduced a couple of new concepts. One of them was verb classes, and then the other one was vowel harmony, which are pretty important. But those make up the big four that are going to help you learn the language. So you got to work on the aspect part of it, the tense part of it, verb classes, and vowel harmony, and that'll cover 90% of what you need in order to learn the Nez Perce language. Okay, Cash App you $5 for the first person that can come up with the translation. It's word for word in the dictionary. I didn't change anything. I just put it right in there like that. Buy you a coffee. How's that? So I'll try not to make it, put too much stuff in the group chat, because I don't want it to become white noise. But I'll commit to adding things in there regularly, so that there's kind of always something there to work on. Again, you guys don't have to say or do anything. Just try to figure out what it means, on your own time. And then, we can put you in right now, Amelia, if you want. Figure it out on your own time. You look it up in the dictionary, and if you're satisfied for taking it that far, then you don't have to do anything else. It's just about being connected to the language. So, but it'd be good for you guys to try too. So I don't want it to just be me always putting stuff in there. I want you guys to try to put stuff in there too. So I want you should be exercising your skills for conjugating verbs and stuff too. That's you know, it needs to go both ways. It's good practice. Okay, I'll put you in right now, code. I don't know that. If I have any problem, if you just say that you want to get added, I'll do my best to add you. If I can't or whatever, I'll try to get a hold of you another way and see if we can figure it out. Okay, it should be in now. You should receive a notification here in a second or two that you've been added. If you're having problems with the dictionary, let me know. We'll figure out some other way to get it to you. But having it on your phone shouldn't back up your phone too badly. You should be able to navigate it pretty well from there. Let's just double check that everything is in the Dropbox is up to date. Yeah, so the alphabet book is in there, the dictionary is in there, pronominal prefixes, which we talked about tonight. You know, for you people who are overachievers, there's a ton of information in there, and there's a ton of information at the front of the dictionary. So if you're having trouble with it, I can point you to the right place. But if you want to work on it on your own time and read over it, that's the way to go. And when you're reading over them too, I want you to think about how it's pronounced. So try to go over each letter and try to imagine how it's pronounced correctly. And then maybe on the next class or something, if people are participating, we can go over those pronunciations, and you guys can just double check to see whether you got it right, whatever's been happening in the group chat from one class to the next. Okay. All right, so $5 if you can give us the translation for what I put in the group chat. I'll send it to you. You can buy yourself a cup of coffee. Next class will be on a Wednesday. Again, I'm here at 6:30 already, trying to get things set up, so I'm not scrambling around. I didn't do a very good job today, but I'll be here at 6:30 just hanging out, and then class will start at 7. You can get a hold of me through the group chat now. I'm in there if you need to. If you have questions about things, you should be able to find me there. And then I'll put the recording up on my YouTube and make sure that it stays up on my page. This recording will bump the last recording off the pin. So pinned means that it's the very top one. So if you go to my page, you look up my name, the very first post there will be whatever the latest language class recording is. So you're welcome to go back and watch it there. Okay, I'll put you on the